This story is titled, I Came Home Early and Heard My Girlfriend Brag About Cheating on Me. I walked out without saying a word. Now she's desperate to find me. Hi everyone. Before we dive in, a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and makes sure you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. Hey Reddit. So, this has been a crazy few weeks, and I honestly don't know what to do with myself. Thought I'd share the story because maybe putting it out there will help me process. I'm Drew, 32, and I thought I had my life figured out, or at least the relationship part of it. I've been dating this girl, Olivia, for 2 years. We met at a Christmas party a couple of years back, and at the time, it felt like one of those, this is meant to happen moments. Looking back now, I guess I was just dumb. Anyway, let me start at the beginning. The party where we met was thrown by a mutual friend of ours, Jason. Jason and I go way back, like high school days, and Olivia was one of his employees. I didn't even want to go to the party that night. Work had been brutal, and I just wanted to stay home. But Jason guilt-tripped me into showing up, saying I needed to meet people and live a little. So I went, and there she was. Olivia. She was laughing with a group of people when I first saw her. Jason, being Jason, dragged me over to introduce us. We hit it off almost immediately. She laughed at my dumb jokes, asked about my interests, and genuinely seemed interested in me. I remember leaving that party with her number and this goofy smile on my face. Fast forward a few weeks, we went on our first date. Nothing fancy, just a burger joint and a walk in the park. But it was perfect. She was funny, smart, and way more grounded than I expected someone like her to be. We clicked, you know? Like I could see this going somewhere serious. And it did. A few months later, we were officially a couple, and everything felt good. But there was one thing that always stuck out. Her younger sister, Qley. From the very first time I met her, I could tell she didn't like me. She wasn't outright rude, but she had this way of making comments that felt like little jabs. Like during one of the first family dinners I went to, she said, "Wow, Olivia, you really went for the low-maintenance look, huh?" Like, what does that even mean? I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she was just protective of her sister or trying to mess with me. But it didn't stop. Qley would always find ways to undermine me. If I mentioned something I was passionate about, she'd roll her eyes or make a sarcastic comment. Like, one time I was talking about a hike, Olivia, and I went on, and Qley was like, "Wow, how thrilling. I'm sure you guys had a wild time looking at trees." She'd also do this thing where she'd bring up Olivia's exes, like, "Oh, remember when you and Mark went to Cancun? That sounded like such a fun trip." It felt like she was constantly trying to remind me that Olivia could do better or that I didn't measure up. I brought it up to Olivia a few times, asking why Qley seemed to have it out for me. She'd just laugh it off and say, "That's just Qley. She's like that with everyone." But it didn't feel like that. I mean, she was perfectly nice to everyone else, just not me. I started dreading any time we had to hang out with her, but for Olivia's sake, I sucked it up. Despite Qley's attitude, my relationship with Olivia kept moving forward. We moved in together after about a year, splitting rent in a small house just outside of the city. Life felt stable, like we were building something real. I wasn't one of those guys who needed to rush into marriage or anything, but after 2 years, I started thinking about proposing. Olivia was my person, or at least I thought she was. This year, Jason was hosting another Christmas party, and it felt like the perfect opportunity to pop the question. It was where we met, and Jason had always been a big part of our story. I talked to Olivia's parents about it a few weeks ago, asking for their blessing, and they were over the moon. I spent weeks planning it. I picked out the ring, rehearsed what I was going to say, and even coordinated with Jason to make sure the moment would be perfect. I imagined Olivia's face when I got down on one knee in front of all our friends, how happy she'd be, how we'd laugh about the journey that got us there. I was so sure I was doing the right thing. But life has a way of kicking you in the teeth when you least expect it. All those plans, all that excitement. It was like building a house on quicksand. I didn't know it at the time, but the foundation of our relationship wasn't what I thought it was, and the cracks were about to show in the worst way. About a month ago, the guys and I planned a weekend fishing trip up to this spot we love near the lake. It's quiet, kind of off the grid, and it's always been our go-to place to just unwind and catch up. We pack up a couple of coolers, grab some gear, and just hang out. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. Life had been a grind, and I needed the break. Olivia wasn't thrilled about me being gone for a whole weekend, but I told her it was important to me, and she seemed to get it. Or at least, she pretended to. So I was driving out that Saturday morning. I had my truck loaded up. Tent, cooler, food, everything I thought I'd need. I was already an hour out when it hit me. I'd left my tackle box sitting in the garage. Now, I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, But that tackle box was brand new. Olivia had given it to me as a gift, and I'd spent a fortune on new lures, hooks, the works. I couldn't just fish without it. Plus, I knew the guys would give me endless crap if I showed up empty-handed, so I sighed, turned the truck around, and started heading back home. I wasn't too happy about losing time, but I figured I'd grab the box and get back on the road in no time. Olivia had mentioned she'd be out shopping with Qley that day, so I wasn't expecting anyone to be home. Honestly, I was kind of relieved about that. I didn't want to deal with the whole, "why are you back so soon" conversation. Olivia wasn't the type to hold back her opinions, and if she thought something was dumb, she'd let you know. I figured it was better to just be in and out without any awkwardness. By the time I pulled into the driveway, it was around 3 p.m. Olivia's car was parked there, which caught me off guard. My first thought was that maybe she'd gotten back early, or their shopping trip had been cut short. I didn't think much of it. Sometimes plans change, right? I parked the truck and headed inside, already focused on grabbing the tackle box and hitting the road again. When I walked through the door, the house felt oddly still. You know when something just feels off? The air felt heavier, like the kind of quiet that isn't really quiet. I could hear faint voices coming from the living room, so I figured Olivia and Qley were just hanging out. It wasn't unusual for Qley to be over. She didn't live too far, and Olivia liked having her around. I usually just kept my distance when Qley was over. It was easier that way. As I made my way through the house, I realized their voices were louder than I thought. They weren't just chatting, they were laughing. Not the friendly, light-hearted kind of laughing either. It was that mean, gossipy kind of laugh. I stopped in my tracks, halfway down the hall. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the way they were talking, something about it made me freeze. I couldn't help but listen. Qley's voice carried first. "You're seriously telling me he didn't notice? Not even a little?" She sounded almost impressed, but in that snarky, mocking way she always had. Olivia's laugh followed, softer but full of amusement. "Of course not. Drew doesn't notice anything unless it's right in front of him. He's so focused on his little hobbies, he has no idea what's going on." My chest tightened. I didn't know what they were talking about, but the way they said my name, it felt wrong, like I was the punchline of some joke I didn't understand. Qley wasn't done. "I still don't get how you put up with him. He's like the most boring guy I've ever met. Always talking about fishing or hiking or whatever. God, Olivia, you could do so much better." "He's so safe," Olivia said. Her tone wasn't loving or affectionate. It sounded almost dismissive. "Safe?" Qley replied. "Come on, you deserve more than boring. Scott is way better." My heart started racing. "Scott? Who's Scott?" I thought. Olivia's laugh cut through me. "I know. I didn't plan for it to happen, but Scott, he's just different. And in bed? Oh my God, it's insane. Drew doesn't even come close," Qley continued. "Then what are you waiting for? Just break it off with Drew already. Scott is clearly the better choice." Olivia sighed. "I can't. Not yet. And I know he's planning something big for Christmas. I don't want to ruin it. Yet. I wanted to smash something. Yell. Do anything to release the anger boiling inside me. But instead, I just took a deep breath and left the house. As I closed the front door behind me, I heard Olivia call out, "Drew? Is that you?" I didn't answer. I got in my car and drove away. She called me a few minutes later, but I ignored it. By the time I got back on the road, she had sent me a string of messages. "Where are you? I thought I heard the door. Are you okay? Please call me." I didn't go back to the fishing trip. I couldn't. Instead, I drove aimlessly for hours, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. It was like everything I thought I knew about Olivia, about our relationship, was suddenly up in the air, and I didn't know what to do with that. Eventually, I pulled into a motel parking lot and checked in for the night. It wasn't much, but it gave me a place to sit and think, without the weight of the house or Olivia's presence looming over me. I turned my phone off, ignoring the flood of messages and missed calls that had started coming in. I couldn't deal with her right now. I didn't want to hear her excuses or explanations. What could she possibly say to justify what I'd overheard? I spent the entire night at that motel, staring at the ceiling and playing the conversation I overheard in my head, like some twisted highlight reel. Every laugh, every word felt like a dagger. The way Olivia talked about me with Qley wasn't just disrespectful, it was cruel. And the mention of Scott? That hit differently. Knowing there was a name, a face to attach to her betrayal, made it even worse. It wasn't just some abstract mistake I could brush off. She had been making choices, deliberate ones, to lie to me, laugh behind my back, and plan for her exit while I was planning our future. Looking back, though, there were signs. Subtle ones. But I chose to ignore them back then. For example, over the last few months, Olivia had been more busy than usual. Gym sessions, last-minute drinks with her coworkers, Impromptu shopping trips with Qley? At the time, I didn't think much of it. She wasn't the clingy type, and I respected her independence. But now, I couldn't help wondering how many of those nights were spent with Scott instead. Was she seeing him when she was out with Qley? Was Qley covering for her the whole time? I couldn't shake the idea that Qley had been part of this from the start, encouraging her, enabling her, and probably enjoying every second of it. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even my friends. I didn't know how to start that conversation. Hey guys, turns out my girlfriend of 2 years has been cheating on me with some guy from the gym. It sounded pathetic in my head, and I didn't want their pity. I wanted to deal with this on my own, at least for now. By the time I left the motel, I had a plan, or at least the beginnings of one. I wasn't going to confront Olivia yet. That would come later, on my terms. First, I needed to figure out what to do about our living situation. The lease was in my name, so legally I had all the control. I wasn't about to let her stay in the house while I figured things out. She didn't deserve that. If anything, I wanted her out of my space as soon as possible. When I got back to the house that afternoon, the first thing I noticed was that Olivia's car wasn't in the driveway. Perfect. I parked my truck and walked in. I headed straight to the spare room where we kept the trash bags. If I was going to do this, I needed to do it now. I grabbed a couple of them and started putting her things. Clothes, shoes, makeup, anything that was obviously hers went straight into the trash bag. I just wanted her stuff out of my house. The faster, the better. I dragged everything out to the front porch and left it there. Then I went inside, pulled up the contact info for the locksmith I'd used a year ago, and called him to come change the locks. He showed up within the hour, and I didn't give him any details, just told him I needed the work done ASAP. Once the locks were changed, I felt a small sense of relief. It wasn't much, but it was a step in taking back control. Before I left the house, I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote a quick note. Nothing dramatic, just a simple, "You know what you did. Don't contact me." I taped it to the door and locked up, feeling the weight of the keys in my hand like they were the last tie to the life I'd just thrown away. With everything packed and the locks changed, I needed some space. So I decided to head out to a retreat center I'd heard about a while back. It was 5 hours away. I needed this kind of long drives, and it offered a quiet place to think. No phone, no distractions, just me and my thoughts. That's exactly what I needed. On my way out of town, I stopped to grab a coffee and sat in the parking lot for a few minutes, scrolling through my phone. Sure enough, there were dozens of missed calls and texts from Olivia. At first, they were casual. "Hey, where are you?" And "Did you come home last night?" But as the hours went on, they became more frantic. "Drew, I'm really worried. Please call me. What's going on? Why aren't you answering?" And finally, "Where the hell are you? We need to talk." I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't ready to talk to her yet. What was I supposed to say? "Oh, hey, I overheard you talking about Scott and how I don't measure up. Want to explain?" Number. That wasn't how I wanted to handle this. She didn't deserve an explanation from me, not after what she'd done. As I drove toward the retreat, I started thinking about what would happen when she came home and found her stuff on the porch. I pictured her reaction. Probably shock, maybe some tears. Part of me hoped she'd feel embarrassed, like she'd finally realize how badly she'd messed up. But another part of me didn't care how she felt. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me, and what I needed to do to move forward. By the time I got to the retreat, I was emotionally drained. I spent the next 2 days at the retreat. Honestly, I didn't even think much about what I was going to do next. I just knew I wasn't rushing back into the mess I left behind. Let her sit there and figure out why her stuff was on the porch. When I finally headed back into town, I was clear about one thing. Olivia wasn't going to manipulate her way out of this. I wasn't going to give her a chance to spin her lies or cry her way back into my good graces. If anything, I felt a kind of cold clarity driving back. She wasn't worth the energy. Whatever fake version of herself she'd been presenting for 2 years was done, and I wasn't playing along anymore. As I pulled into my driveway, it was obvious she'd been there. Her stuff, which I'd left packed on the porch, was gone. She'd taken it all. The note I'd taped to the door was missing too, but that didn't surprise me. What did catch my attention was the stack of envelopes wedged into the screen door. Letters, all addressed to me, all from Olivia. I didn't even touch them. I just shook my head, unlocked the new lock, and went inside. After clearing her last traces from the house, I sat down on the couch and pulled out my phone. I hadn't checked it since before the retreat, and when I turned it on, the notifications started flooding in. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. It was a barrage of desperation. The texts started out calm. "Hey, I came home and saw my stuff. Can we talk? I don't know what's going on, but I'm worried." Then they got more frantic. "Drew, what the hell? Why is all my stuff outside? Please call me. I'm so sorry for whatever I did. And finally, they turned angry. This is childish, Drew. You're acting like a jerk. At least give me the decency of a conversation. I smirked reading that one. Decency? After what I overheard? The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I blocked her number. Done. Simple as that. She didn't deserve an explanation, and I wasn't about to waste my time crafting some long text or arguing over the phone. The next morning, I got a call from Jason, the mutual friend who'd introduced me to Olivia at the Christmas party 2 years ago. Jason's one of those friends who's always got your back, but doesn't sugarcoat things. When I picked up, his tone was casual, but I could tell he knew something was up. Hey man, everything okay? Olivia's been blowing up my phone. I leaned back in my chair and sighed. Yeah, she's probably freaking out because I threw her out. Jason paused, then let out a low whistle. Damn! What happened? For the first time, I told someone the whole story. How I'd overheard Olivia and Qley's conversation, the way they mocked me, and of course the part about Scott. Jason didn't interrupt, which I appreciated. When I finished, he let out a long breath. Wow, that's messed up. Honestly though, good for you. She didn't deserve you, man. Jason wasn't the type to blindly take sides, so his support meant a lot. Over the next few days, Olivia's attempts to contact me didn't stop. She tried everything, calling from other numbers, showing up at the house, I didn't answer the door, and even leaving letters in my mailbox. Each letter was the same. Apologies, excuses, and pleas for another chance. I didn't read most of them, but the few I skimmed all had the same theme. She was sorry, it wasn't what it looked like, she still loved me, blah blah blah. The same tired script cheaters always use when they're caught. I wasn't buying it. Qley also tried reaching out, which made me laugh. Her messages were so out of touch it was almost funny. Hey, I heard Olivia's upset. Maybe you guys should talk. Like she hadn't been the one encouraging Olivia to cheat in the first place. I blocked her too. The next morning, I decided it was time to call Olivia's parents. They'd always been kind to me, treating me like family from the moment Olivia and I got serious. Her mom, Linda, would send me home with leftovers after family dinners, and her dad, Tom, loved talking about sports and grilling tips. They were the type of people who genuinely cared, and I figured they deserved to know the truth about what their daughter had been up to. Plus, I wanted them to hear it from me, not some twisted version Olivia would no doubt try to sell them. I wasn't nervous about the call, but I knew it wouldn't be easy. It's not exactly a casual conversation. Hey, just thought you should know your daughter's a cheater, and her sister's been hyping her up about it. Still, I called Linda's number, and she picked up on the second ring. Drew, how are you, sweetheart? It's been a while, she said, her voice as warm as ever. Hi, Linda, I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. Do you have a few minutes to talk? It's important. Of course, she said, sounding concerned. Is everything okay? No, I said bluntly. Not really. I explained everything. How I'd overheard Olivia and Qley laughing about me, how she admitted to cheating with some guy named Scott, and how Qley had been egging her on the entire time. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her exactly what they said, word for word, because I wanted her to understand just how low both of her daughters had stooped. By the time I finished, the line was silent. For a moment, I thought Linda had hung up, but then I heard a shaky breath. Drew, she finally said, her voice trembling. I don't even know what to say. I can't believe this. Are you sure? Maybe you misunderstood. I didn't misunderstand, I interrupted firmly. Linda started crying. I felt a little bad, but at the same time, I wasn't going to soften the truth for her. Her daughters had done this, not me. After a few moments, I heard Tom's voice in the background, asking what was wrong. Tom, Linda said, her voice breaking. It's about Olivia and Qley. There was some muffled noise as Tom took the phone. Drew, what's going on? Linda's in tears over here. So, I told him. The whole thing. Again. By the time I finished, he was silent, just like Linda had been. Then, after what felt like forever, he let out a long, heavy sigh. I'm sorry, Drew, he said, his voice low and serious. You didn't deserve that. None of it. I can't believe they'd... God, I don't even have words. It's not your fault, I said, and I meant it. But I thought you should know. I know how much you both care about your daughters, but I can't stay quiet about this. I'm done being disrespected. You're absolutely right, Tom said, his voice sharp now. They crossed a line, and they need to face the consequences. I don't care if they're my daughters. What they did is disgusting. Linda, still crying in the background, chimed in. Drew, I'm so sorry. You've always been so good to Olivia, to our family. I can't believe she would throw that away. And Qley, how could she encourage something like this? I don't even recognize them anymore. We talked for a while longer. They asked if I was okay, how I was handling everything, and if there was anything they could do to help. I told them I was fine, better than they probably expected, and that I was moving on, no matter how hard Olivia begged. Tom promised me they'd handle things on their end, and made it clear they wouldn't tolerate that kind of behavior in their family. Before we hung up, Tom said something that stuck with me. Drew, you've always been like a son to us. What Olivia did doesn't change that. You're welcome in our lives anytime, but as far as I'm concerned, she's out. Both of them are. I can't have people like that in my life, even if they're family. I wasn't sure how Olivia's parents would react, but I didn't think they'd cut ties with both of their daughters. It was a bold move, but honestly, it made me respect them even more. They didn't try to justify or excuse Olivia's behavior. They didn't pull the blood is thicker than water card. They just saw the situation for what it was and stood by their principles. I felt relieved, like a weight had been lifted knowing Olivia and Qley wouldn't have the support system they'd probably been counting on. But another part of me felt sad, not for them, but for Linda and Tom. They didn't deserve this. They'd raised two daughters who turned out to be selfish, deceitful people, and now they had to live with that reality. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. By the time I went to bed that night, I felt more at peace than I had in weeks. Olivia and Qley might have tried to ruin my life, but I wasn't the one left scrambling to fix things. That was on them now. And judging by Tom and Linda's reaction, they were going to have a rough time ahead. In the days that followed my conversation with Olivia's parents, the fallout from her and Qley's actions started to spread. Tom and Linda weren't the kind of people to make empty promises, and when they said they were cutting ties with both of their daughters, they meant it. I didn't expect the extent to which they'd follow through, though. It was satisfying to watch. The first thing I heard was that Olivia had been fired. Jason called me. Well, she's not my employee anymore. I can't keep someone like that around. It's bad for the team, bad for morale, and honestly, I don't want someone who thinks that kind of behavior is okay representing my company. I wasn't expecting him to fire her, but I couldn't pretend I was upset about it. Olivia had always bragged about how much Jason respected her work, how secure her position was. Clearly, her actions had consequences she didn't see coming. You didn't have to do that on my account, I said, though part of me was relieved to know she wasn't going to skate by without any repercussions. Jason scoffed. This isn't just about you, Drew. I don't tolerate that kind of behavior, period. She crossed a line, and I'm not going to let her bring her drama into my workplace. After we hung up, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Olivia had been so smug, so confident that she could get away with everything. But now, the life she'd built was starting to crumble. From what I heard through mutual friends, and a little from Jason, Olivia tried to play the victim at first. She told anyone who would listen that I'd overreacted and kicked her out without giving her a chance to explain. But as the full story came out, thanks to Jason and her parents, people stopped buying her act. She went from being someone everyone admired to someone they pitied, and not in a good way. As for Qley, her involvement didn't go unnoticed either. Tom and Linda were furious with her for encouraging Olivia's behavior, and they made it clear she wasn't welcome in their home anymore. Qley had always been the family wildcard, the one who could never hold down a job, constantly borrowing money, and always relying on her parents to bail her out. Tom and Linda cut all financial support to both Olivia and Qley. They didn't have much of a safety net anymore. Tom and Linda also didn't hold back when people asked why. According to Jason, Linda had told one of her friends at church, "We raised them better than this. If they're going to behave this way, they can do it without our help." Their social circle quickly picked up on the situation, and word spread fast. Olivia and Qley found themselves ostracized by people they'd once relied on for support. Friends stopped returning their calls, invitations to events dried up, and even their Instagram followers started dwindling. Olivia, who had always cared way too much about appearances, must have been losing her mind over it. Apparently, Qley let Olivia crash at her place for a while, but that didn't last long. From what Jason told me, Qley couldn't handle the constant drama Olivia brought with her. Between Olivia spiraling after losing her job and Qley struggling to keep up with her own expenses, things fell apart quickly. One night, Jason mentioned he'd heard through the grapevine that Qley had finally snapped and kicked Olivia out too. She told her to figure her own crap out, Jason said, almost laughing. I guess being sisters only goes so far when someone's a walking disaster. I didn't feel bad for either of them. They'd made their choices, and now they were dealing with the fallout. If anything, it felt like poetic justice. Olivia and Qley had spent so much time tearing me down, acting like I was just some safe and boring guy who didn't deserve their respect. Now they were the ones scrambling to pick up the pieces while I was moving on with my life. One night, as I was scrolling through my phone, I got a text from Jason. It was a reminder about the upcoming Christmas party. "Hope you're still coming," he wrote. "Don't worry, Olivia's not invited. This year's all about good vibes." I stared at the message for a while, debating whether or not to respond. Part of me wanted to skip the party altogether. It felt too tied to everything that had happened. But another part of me thought, why should I let her ruin it for me? It's not her party, and she sure as hell doesn't own the memory of that night. So, yeah, I'm going to the party. Not just to see friends or enjoy the holiday spirit, but to reclaim something. My story, my dignity, my life, whatever you want to call it. If Olivia showed up and tried to stir the pot one last time, well, let's just say I'm ready for her. This time, I'm not the clueless guy standing in the hallway, blindsided by betrayal. I'm walking in with my eyes wide open. I guess we'll find out. Thanks for reading until here. I'll update you guys after the Christmas party. Update. All right, Reddit. Buckle up because things went down at the Christmas party, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. If you've been following my story, you know where we left off. Let me take you to the party. The night started off fine. Actually, it was better than fine. Jason knows how to throw a party, and his place looked like something out of a Christmas movie. Twinkling lights, a giant tree in the corner, and people in festive sweaters holding drinks and laughing. It felt good to be around friends, people who had my back and knew the real story about what went down with Olivia. I mingled, caught up with old friends, and even met a few new people. I felt like myself again. No baggage, no drama, just Drew. But then, of course, the drama walked in. It was about halfway through the party when the front door swung open, and there she was, Olivia, standing in the doorway, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her makeup was smudged, her hair was a mess, and she wasn't wearing anything remotely festive, just a plain black coat and jeans. She looked completely out of place among the crowd of cheerful partygoers. The room went dead silent. Everyone turned to look at her, and you could feel the tension crackling in the air. Jason was the first to speak. "What the hell are you doing here?" he asked, his tone sharp. "I need to talk to Drew," Olivia said, her voice shaky but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Please, just for a minute." Jason stepped forward, blocking her path. "You weren't invited, Olivia. You need to leave." She ignored him, her eyes darting around the room until they landed on me. "Drew," she said, her voice breaking, "please, I just need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Now here's the thing. Old me? The guy I was a month ago? He probably would have folded. He would have given her those 5 minutes because he wanted to believe the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. But new me? The guy standing there with a room full of supportive friends and zero patience for her nonsense? Yeah, that guy wasn't about to play along. I crossed my arms and stared at her. "Talk about what, Olivia?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You've already said everything I needed to know. You just didn't think I was listening." Her face crumpled, and for a second, I thought she might actually turn around and leave. But no. She took a shaky step forward and started pleading, her voice cracking with every word. "Drew, I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I was stupid, and I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. Please, just give me a chance to explain." Jason cut in again, his voice firm. "Olivia, I'm serious. You need to go. This isn't the place for this." She spun around to face him, tears streaming down her face now. "Jason, please. I just need 5 minutes with him. Just 5 minutes and I'll leave." Jason looked like he was about to lose it, but I raised a hand to stop him. "It's fine," I said. "Let her say what she needs to say." You could hear a pin drop as I walked toward her. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen. Olivia wiped at her face, trying to compose herself as I stopped a few feet away from her. "Go ahead," I said. "Say whatever it is you think will fix this." She took a deep breath, her whole body shaking. "Drew, I was an idiot. I let Qley get in my head, and I made mistakes I can't take back. But I swear it didn't mean anything. Scott didn't mean anything. None of it did. You're the one I love, Drew. You've always been the one." I stared at her, unblinking. "You love me?" I asked, my voice calm but cutting. "Is that what you were thinking when you called me boring? When you laughed about how clueless I was? Or how about when you said Scott was insane in bed and I didn't even come close? Was that love, Olivia?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I didn't mean any of that," she whispered. "I was stupid, Drew. I was trying to impress Qley and I—" "Stop," I said, cutting her off. "Don't blame Qley for your choices. She might have encouraged you, but you're the one who made those decisions. You're the one who lied, cheated, and then laughed about it." Her tears were falling freely now, and she dropped her voice so only I could hear. "I'm begging you, Drew. I don't have anyone else. Qley kicked me out. My parents won't talk to me. You're all I have left." I stepped back, letting her words hang in the air for a moment before I replied. "And whose fault is that, Olivia?" "Because it sure as hell isn't mine." At that point, Jason had had enough. He stepped forward, gesturing to one of his friends near the door. "Time to go," he said firmly. Two of Jason's friends gently but firmly escorted Olivia out, ignoring her weak protests and pleas. The door shut behind her, and just like that, the tension in the room evaporated. Someone cranked up the music, and people started talking again, but the energy had definitely shifted. Jason walked over to me, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "You good?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah," I said, feeling strangely calm. "I'm good." And you know what? I really was. Watching Olivia crash and burn like that didn't hurt. If anything, it felt like closure. I'd spent 2 years of my life with someone who didn't deserve me, but now I was finally free. So, that's the story. I don't know what Olivia's doing now, and honestly, I don't care. She made her choices, and now she's dealing with the consequences. As for me, I'm moving forward. I've got good friends, a supportive community, and a life that's finally my own again. That's all I need.